Everybody, this is the Geoff and Gerry show. This is a podcast that we're going to do in the next couple of months. Gerry and I have both had quite a lot of time and experience in waste stream matters.
30 years? 30 years?
Yeah, I think so, Gerry. We've come across some most interesting questions, but the one that's emerged most recently is incineration. And Gerry, you've been at the front line in this issue, haven't you?
It's been around for a long time, Geoff. The first fight I was in an incinerator was 20 years ago in New Zealand, yeah. And the issues are just the same. The issues are about health generally, what's the best value for the community in terms of investment, because it is a huge investment. And most importantly, if you're burning things, the only things that burn are organic, and organic materials can either be recycled or composted.
I think that point you make about the benefit to the community is really crucial. And if people are watching this, my suggestion is that you actually really start to look further into that, because people who are putting up these ideas are really doing so from an investment perspective, not necessarily from a best use of resources nor best way of doing things for local people.
Yeah, the whole idea is that somebody wants to spend $200 million, the bankers all wet themselves trying to get in on the deal.
That's right.
The financiers do the same, and the engineers think, oh shit, I could get my name on that, that'll end up on my CV, wacky-do. And so the community is totally forgotten about.
Well, the New South Wales government has a policy in terms of incineration, which is not too bad in theory. Essentially, it says what you've got to do is recycle as much as you possibly can, and then what's left is actually what they might allow to be incinerated. But what we see from a close look at that is there's still quite remarkably a number of materials that can be recycled. And again, it gets back to this key issue. For what purpose are we trying to establish this mechanism? Is it for the benefit of the big companies, or is it for the benefit of the community? And people in the ACT are looking at the issue from a health perspective. We would support them from that perspective. You've actually been talking to them about that, haven't you?
Yeah, in the Canberra community, I think there's just been had in this deal. The discussion, and I think also too, so are the proponents, they've just been told by some overseas giant that they've solved all the problems about health, they've solved all the problems about best resource use, but nobody's solved the problem about what you do with the toxic waste.
That's right.
There's nowhere to bury it in this region or this area. Nobody's solved the issue about how do you source separate in the first place? How do you introduce a decent source separation system? Because 70% of your material stream in total is organic material, and in a country that has the poorest soil organic matter in the world, why aren't we putting that material under legislation, under the Product Stewardship Act, straight back into our soils? So there's lots of issues about community that simply are never discussed.
Well, Gerry, I think we might leave it there, because that's a good summation. But the point before we go is make sure you actually look more closely into this issue. It's one that's going to come up again, and it's being spread around the country. But we don't think it's worthwhile.
Incineration is not a new idea. Setting fire to things has been around for a long, long time. So as Geoff says, it is about how do you personally and collectively get the best value for your community out of the money that you're spending on this away process.
Yeah.